Hello and good morning. Welcome on your TV sets in Texas and Louisiana. You are watching on the Smart Money Culture TV network. We come to you every morning and afternoon. It is an absolute pleasure. Fly Mackey, the man with the plan, is doing it up there at the Smart Money Culture TV network. We have an exciting show ahead today. There is a lot going on in the world, as is usually the case these days. We have the markets are fairly tepid across the board. We have some gold's up slightly, silver's up slightly, but seems to be in a bit of a pullback moment. Dow futures are down slightly. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange up a little bit. Just kind of mixed. Crypto down a little bit, but kind of really up. Everybody's seems to be. Are we taking the next leg up, or is something going to happen? Of course, we have the situation on the war fronts are heating up, I would say, or pretty interesting. Of course, you have Putin coming out saying that, hey, look, we don't want war. Don't be ridiculous. We don't want war with NATO. It is interesting that there's not a whole lot of coverage that comes out of there, out of the Ukraine. I know a lot of people think that that's because there's nothing going on. I disagree. They just don't want to publicize it for whatever reason, whatever their reasons are. There's a lot going on there as well. Bukele is on the Tucker Show, and there's some really interesting clips coming out of there. We're gonna go over some of those as well. But I can tell you that here in Washington, they are already talking about the next $100 billion bill, and that's you're about to get fleeced again. And it's not like I don't see a lot of people talking about it yet, but I can tell you that is what is being talked about in all of these places around here. They need that. The war right now is costing about an extra $100 billion every time, every 2 months or so. So it's pretty easy to know what's coming. Obviously, they need another 100 billion in order to make everything happen. So, that's how that works. So there's another 100 billion that's already being talked about. They are putting as well. They're putting another 220 million over to the Ukraine. So that fleecing I think is about to happen. Crypto does look pretty set to pump. Big inflows on the ETFs. We'll talk a little bit more on that. But over the last few days, major inflows on the ETFs, which I mean, well over 10,000 or something like that. And I mean, they're only producing like 450. Bitcoin's only producing like 450 coins a day. So pretty interesting interview with Bukele. So I'm going to kind of pop around a little bit, but he did say some interesting things. I mean, he's an interesting guy. And then Tucker, of course, is like the king of media right now, right? He's the king of media. Here, let me share my screen here real quick. Bukele.
Can fix a mess like this in the U.S. with a limited amount of wealth, with scientists, innovation like no other country in the world. Still, the innovation is coming from the U.S. It's more than any other country still, right? Even not because of the government, but it has the best innovators, AI
for sure.
I mean, anything. So you still have the best innovators. You still have the biggest companies. You still have the world reserve currency, the biggest wealth, the biggest GDP. The availability to hire talent from anywhere. You can bring whatever talent you need to fix any gaps. You can pick any. You get it. You get what you want. You still can get what you want. You can't get attacked because you're
too far away.
You're too far away from anyone that wants to attack you, because Mexico or Canada are not going to attack the U.S. So your enemies are too far away, and you still have the biggest army, the biggest armed forces. So
biggest energy reserves.
Yes, and the U.S., like Russia, they were built as superpowers. Can fix.
So I'm going to play some more clips here. One of the things that he's saying that's really interesting, kind of over and over again, is that if we can do it, then you can do it as well. Kind of this, if we can do it, you can do it. He thinks that Trump can win. He said they tried to kill him a number of times. Let's see here. I have more of this queued up here. Pretty interesting. I mean, very interesting guy. He has just built superpower. Let's see here. This is kind of a continuation of the last one here.
But if you sanction Russia, you can't break Russia, because they're built as a superpower.
Yes.
So they have wheat, they have energy, they have natural gas, oil.
Yes.
Because they were built like that.
Industrial capacity,
factories, workers. So the U.S. is like that too. It was built as a superpower. So you have wheat, you have corn, you have workers, you have blue-collar workers, you have trained, skilled factory workers, you have colleges, you have universities, you have a school system, you have infrastructure, you have cities, tourism, the Mississippi River. I mean, you have everything. You have ships, you have warehouses, agriculture, fertile lands. What you didn't have before you got, right? You took from Mexico or whatever. So the U.S. was built to be a superpower, right? Acquire land, acquire fertile lands, Texas was part of Mexico, but it's part of the U.S. and you have all the oil there. So, and then you have California. And the U.S. is built as a superpower. So the U.S. has everything to go on for 1,000 years. It's not like it's doomed to fail. But apparently the leaders, or most of them, you have probably very good leaders, but most of the leaders, they're not seeing it. Either they are evil, or this is not conspiracy theory. It's just the options you have. Either they're evil and they want to destroy the U.S. because of some evil reason, or they're puppets and they are being handled by people that need the U.S. to be destroyed for some reason, or they're incompetent and they just doing wrong stuff because they're not capable of doing the right stuff. Or, sorry, I said three, but the incentives, right? Changing a country and changing a lot of things that are badly done probably will anger some people, right? Some groups, some lobbies, some interests. If you say, okay, we're going to stop the railway that's costing us $15 billion per 600 meters, a lot of companies will be angry. A lot of mayors. You have a system that needs to be handled. So, and that needs leadership, and it needs a clear mandate that is probably a little hard to get in the U.S. because of the opposite views and the bipartisanship. But you need to do it. But if you sanction Russia,
so it's pretty interesting. I'm not going to play. It's actually it's a bit of a slow interview at the same time, as much as it is interesting. I think that he dances around a little bit. One of the biggest problems that we have, of course, is this bureaucracy that never goes. It never gets smaller, right? The bureaucracy just only grows, and this is something that happens in governments around the world, and I don't really know what the answer is to stop it. No president ever wants to come in and be the guy that killed all the jobs, that fired everybody. That's not a popular thing to do. Even when Trump gets back in, if he gets back in, as much as he wants to downsize and this and that and the other, he's going to get in more than likely, and they're going to say, hey, don't do it. Same thing with deporting people, to be frank. One, it's a political hot potato, but two, once they are here, and that is a part of the engine of the economical engine, when you take them out, you risk it having a bad effect on the economy. So it's hard to be that person. It's really hard to be that person, and very hard to get elected on that. That's for sure. And then once you get in there, I think it's hard to stay alive. Kennedy wanted to close the CIA, and that didn't last too long. And he as well tried to make a silver-backed currency, and he didn't last too long. So we have the administrative state in the U.S., the deep state, or so-called deep state, with the central bank behind really all of it for the last 111 years, is very powerful, and they are pulling those strings. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, they're going to probably, they're going to sentence Trump to jail for sure. And I don't know, maybe he'll be able to, try to get it overturned and everything else, but they're going to sentence him to jail. I don't know how much that's going to hurt him. I mean, right now it appears in the polls that he's going to get more and more, he's getting more and more support. But, who even knows what that means? You have the magic electronic voting machines, as well as the mail-in ballots, which are very easy to, people get like 7 of these showing up to the house. It's, I'm not saying that it's, I'm not saying anything other than, it's interesting. And I think last election in Michigan, they sent out 1.8 million absentee ballots, and they got in like 2.5 million or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's there's not a whole lot of checks and balances on that. And then anything that is electronic can be hacked. It's not like they're using the latest encryption, blockchain, something or the other in order to make those machines work. I mean, they're just electronic machines. And I've played the clips of people saying how that they used them to do over, or to turn elections. And as well, not only that, but they're the favorite to use all over the world. And look what just happened in Mexico. All right, let's talk more about the markets. We'll bring on the great Matt Dixon here. Sir Matt, the founder of eBay Ratings and Research.
Good morning. Great, thank you. We've just had a good time at Dubai Blockchain Center, so it's quite interesting. They're actually adopting eBay as their gateway to crypto, basically about teaching how to trade crypto. So this is actually official government.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So official government are now using eBay.
Wow. There you go. That's the big news.
So got some pictures, but I won't share those just now. We'll put them on our social media perhaps. But it's been a good day for eBay, actually. When I say a good day, we posted some assets yesterday, and I'm not sure that I posted them on this show, but I definitely posted them on X, and we discussed them. So I was looking at Loom as one asset, and Loom actually was an upgrade, and it pumped overnight. And I remember I did say in yesterday's show that actually Doggy, your coin, was actually downgraded, and it has actually fallen. The price has fallen overnight. So this is amazing. In a market, basically, the eBay system is an AI system. It depends on artificial intelligence, and it actually selected a token that was going to pump and a token that was going to dump, not exactly dump, but fall. And it was actually right on both of them. And I've been following this for some time. We've done tests, and it is very, very good. And I will just show you, in fact, I'll share my screen, just show you a couple of bits and pieces. And then we'll head into the markets, because again, I know you've got a patch show ahead. So I'll run around a couple of the things I got here. Hopefully you can see my screen. So first of all,
Yes.
so this one's quite interesting. It's actually, this is what's called the efficient frontier, and it actually builds the theoretical possible optimal portfolio that you can have from 20,000 plus crypto assets. It actually measures risk, return, slippage, liquidity, volume, all sorts of different things, and uses artificial intelligence. Now, the actual number of permutations are more than the number of atoms in the universe for these combinations of assets to get the theoretical optimal portfolio. But we've got advanced computer technology that's able to estimate this to a very, very high degree of accuracy. And that's what eBay has done. That's the change we've made. So we're leveraging modern portfolio theory in which the whole of the investment philosophy across traditional assets is based. And we've actually updated this and upgraded it to work with crypto, which is, there are some differences with crypto. But anyway, this is the theoretical optimal portfolio currently on Pro Frontier, which is looking at 6 portfolio updates per day. And this is the makeup of the portfolio. The main part is Ethereum, and it also includes Floki, Jasmy, and People. And this is the particular mix right now. This changes. So when you subscribe to eBay, you actually get all the updates and you can change your portfolio accordingly. But as I say, it's really been really accurate. And just those 2 that I posted yesterday, we weren't to know what the future was going to say, but it was absolutely accurate. The one that the system said would go down in price did. The one that said would go up in price did. So that's been pretty amazing. So there's Doge. You can see they're actually down in price. We also talked about Toncoin yesterday, which was upgraded. And again, that's done really well of late. Came from 6 point something to it's now at 7.29. It's one of the rises, one of the bigger rises today. GameStop, just looking here, GameStop, that meme stock, is actually rocketed today up 19%, but not one that I'd ever look to trade. You can see those candles are just death-defying candles. You'd be trying to catch the falling knife. It's absolutely crazy, so I wouldn't touch that. But the markets have been, reasonably good. So we saw yesterday Bitcoin is still up there, reasonably solid. We got a good rise in Bitcoin, and it's actually moving according to our chart pattern. We said it was going to rise, and it did rise. It's getting near. I mean, if you look at the fear and greed index, and we've actually looked at fear and greed recently, I don't actually have faith in most technical analysis indicators. And in fact, I have mentioned it before, as a book written by Burton and Malkiel back in 1973 called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. I would recommend you take a look at this book. It actually tells you that technical indicators, that's looking back historically, that's what TA indicators do, look at historical prices. It says they cannot predict future prices. And so TA alone is not a good predictor of prices. And that's been proven by Nobel Prize winners, academic research, the lot. But fear and greed index is quite good because it shows that when the majority of people are feeling greed, they're buying in, and people right now are very optimistic about Bitcoin. It's at or near all-time highs. And so there's real optimism, there's real greed in the market. But what this tells you, the fear and greed index, when there is extreme greed, that is the time to be cautious and maybe thinking, maybe I should protect my profits at least. Just be a little bit cautious. It's not the time to be jumping in afresh into these markets necessarily, because the greed is already there. Virtually everybody's already in the market, and there's potential for reversal. Just say potential, nobody knows for certain. And then the opposite scenario would be like in the FTX crisis a little while back. Everybody was pessimistic, and that was the extreme fear in the market when the fear and greed index was in red and showing everybody was fearful. And that's the time, as Warren Buffett always said, when there's blood in the streets, it's time to buy. And when there's extreme fear in the streets, everybody's fearful. There's been capitulation. Everybody's sold their positions and cashed out because they're scared the market's going to nothing. That is the time to actually start thinking about DCAing and start acquiring a position in the market. And I say DCA because whatever the position, I would never recommend you put all your eggs in one basket or commit all of your assets at one particular time. So DCA is a good strategy to use. But that's just...
and that's dollar cost averaging, just for the lay people out there. buying at across buying chunks across the way, maybe at every dip or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Marwan, head of Dubai Blockchain, told us a story today, a true story about somebody he knew who in the early days of Bitcoin, when it was 8,000, he sold his house, everything, saying it's going to go to 32,000. Everybody was saying it's going to 30-odd thousand. So he sold his house, put everything into it. He borrowed money and put into it as well. And it crashed to $1,000, and he's basically completely wiped out. So if he had dollar cost averaged, basically, as the price was falling, gradually he'd have added a bit to it, but never committed all in one go. So dollar cost average averages out your entry points into a particular asset. It means you don't commit all your money into one asset. And actually, through diversification, you should never put all your money into one asset anyway. You should diversify between assets and also within the pricing of a particular asset. That lessens the risk. And that's what eBay is all about. We're actually, the whole model is built on risk-adjusted returns. So the efficient frontier that we just looked at, that efficient frontier portfolio, is giving you the best risk-adjusted return. So in other words, the best possible returns for a measured level of risk. Because on the risk-reward spectrum, the higher risk you take, the higher the potential rewards, but also the higher the potential losses. And what our system does, it actually minimizes the risk you can take to get the best possible return for a measured level of risk. So it's theoretically the best way to do it. And that's eBay is a solid foundation based on theory that should help you get, when the market's going up, you should get more returns. And when the market's going down, you should lose less. So overall, you should do better. So it's probably well worth looking into eBay. And we'll continue periodically to give some of the eBay, participants of the efficient frontier. We'll put them out, and then we'll revisit them the next day to tell you honestly and exactly how they've done, as we did today from yesterday's show. So we'll do that again every now and then. So Bitcoin, is potentially, looking at the fear and greed index, we're high. Looking at the movements here, potentially it can obviously go both ways, but there's a real risk of a pullback because we're at or near all-time highs. That overhead resistance is there to be broken, but it will be a resistance. To break through it is going to take a bit of buying power. As I say, there's a lot of people already long in this market. As Bruce was saying, there's a massive amount of money come into these ETFs. So that buying demand has already come in. So we need new buying demand to drive price further. The fact that loads of people have bought in, that's already factored into the price now. So we need to look for future. And as there's a lot of money, yes, there's good fundamentals for Bitcoin and for crypto and for Ethereum and so on. But when a lot of people have already bought in, there's potential for some profit taking. And so as we're at or near all-time highs, I know of people who have said they're taking profits at these levels. Now, price could continue through and go on to 250,000, could go to any value above. We don't know. But just the risk reward is telling you that maybe it's a time not to be jumping in afresh, or maybe a time even to be taking some profits. So Bitcoin has done very, very well of late, from 15,000 and change back in the FTX crisis days to 70,000, almost 71,000 right now. So that's Bitcoin. Ethereum, again, it's one of those ones that, like Bitcoin, it now has been approved for ETF. So there will be money flow into it. And that's actually this move up here, this big move up here was based, I think, largely on that positive ETF news. And so that news now being in the market, it's been digested by the market and it caused this massive price rise. Now there's probably a bit of profit taking. We may push a little bit higher, but I'm just saying we've had the big rise in the market. And a lot of people are looking to profit take. It's always good. If you miss out on a gain, at least you've not lost money. The most important thing in trading is to preserve your capital and not lose money, because once you've lost money, it's very, very difficult to make it back. So if you were to make a trade and you lost 50%, to make that 50% back, your asset then needs to go up 100%. So it's much harder to make up the losses than it is to protect the portfolio and look for perhaps modest gains. So that's just a few little useful tips. It is very important to recognize that making up losses is really an uphill battle. It's hard work. And so it's good to be cautious when you've had a big, strong rise in the market. Good to be cautious. If it does go higher and you miss out on some gains, at least you're not lost capital. You're still alive for the next day.
That's a really, it's really good advice. And it has been hard. It was hard for me to learn. You always want to make good trades. If you're in a good trade, a lot of times you want to take the good trade, and then don't get back in too early. That's the other thing. But sometimes, like I exited BNB. Well, I was up over 30% on my BNB. BNB then pumped. Of course, you never like to see that, but it was a good trade, and so sometimes you take the good trade.
Yeah, always be thankful for profit in the bag. I think Warren Buffett said what was his biggest mistake, and he, in tongue in cheek, he said his biggest mistake was he always bought too late and sold too early. So, right. But what that meant was he's basically saying never hold an asset till the very, very peak that you expect, because it can reverse. If you've got a good profit in the bag, sometimes good to just take it, crystallize it, or at least protect it, maybe using a trailing stop loss or something like that. So you can do trailing stop losses. There's not necessarily available on all the platforms, but there are ways you can do it. And at some point, maybe we'll touch on that. There's some useful tools you can use to be able to put trailing stops, for example. It's a great way to trade. Sometimes the exchanges don't want you to do it because it is a good way to trade. It means you've not closed out all your position and you're carrying your trade forward. If price goes up, then actually your stop loss is dragged higher and higher and higher. So you make more and more profits. And it's not always in the exchange's best interest for you to continue to hold a position and take profit. Number one, they're not getting trading commissions because you're holding your position, and they only get trading commissions when you trade your position. So it might not be in their best interest there. The other thing is sometimes they may have proprietary positions, or certainly the big whales would have proprietary positions, and they don't want you to make profit. They want to make profits at your expense. And so it may not be in their best interest. So Solana, I've been following again. There's a lot of choppiness. So far, we've only had really, it is quite choppy. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there right now. Not necessarily the best time to jump in. I think best sometimes wait for clarity in the market. And that's what we just said. The biggest failure of retail traders, I think, is addiction to trading. If you've been like Bruce and just made some great profits in BNB, what people want to do is take their profit there and they immediately jump into something else without possibly waiting until the dust has settled, doing their proper due diligence. If BNB has pumped, virtually everything else has pumped as well. Maybe it's time just to sit on your hands, wait for the next best opportunity. And that's the most difficult thing to do, is actually wait for your opportunity rather than run after your opportunity. You need to wait for the trade to come to you rather than you just go to the market and buy willy-nilly all the time. So gold, again, still chopping around with gold. I still believe we're probably going to get some more downside to complete a C wave before we push higher. So again, I probably, if I bought in and got this amazing rally, which you could have done if you'd followed Impact Money. I know they've been a big proponent of buying gold, precious metals. So if you've been with them, I think it's probably great to be holding, because this looks like a corrective move. I'd still be holding my position because I do expect we'll have new all-time highs, although short term we may get a bit of a further pullback. And this candle at the moment is basically it's a relatively bearish candlestick. When you see prices tested higher, it's coming back down lower, but you can never tell for sure until the candle is actually finished. This is daily, so you need to wait for the end of the day. But so far, this is shaping up to be a bearish candlestick, telling us potentially more downside to come with gold. But slightly longer term, it's still really bullish. So I think Bruce's mantra about buying precious metals and gold still rings true for certain. Oil, we said once it broke below this, what was support, has now become overhead resistance. So we're expecting probably lower prices. And we can see the very same shaped candlestick that we saw on gold. There is actually a high correlation between gold and oil prices. And the fact that we're seeing an identical candlestick shape here is potentially telling us of more downside to come. And the fact that we broke through this support has now become overhead resistance. So price will have difficulty breaking above there, and the weight of the trade would now be probably to the downside. So the pressure is probably to the downside right now for oil short term. Same with gold short term. But that still might give us a little bit more upside still to come, possibly with the risk assets. But we would then look, we'll look at S&P, but we would really want to look at, dollar index actually. I'll jump in dollar index. So it's still going the same sort of way as yesterday. We're still expecting possibly a little bit lower. So maybe we see a little bit higher still to come on risk assets before we get a big turnaround. Remember, this moves in the opposite direction. In general, it's not 100% correlation, but in general, the dollar index moves in the opposite direction to risk assets. So the big drivers for the dollar are obviously the economy. There's geopolitics as well, but the economy things in particular, we're waiting for CPI, which is now not that far away. A few days, a week, or I'd have to check the date, but we're only about a week away from CPI news. CPI obviously is inflation news. So Bitcoin, as we've always said, has now evolved from being a complete speculative asset in the early days, where it's driven by supply and demand and the latest news that came out. But now it's much more of a solid asset and much more of a safe haven, a store of value. And it's driven a lot more now by fundamental data, economic data, I should say, like CPI, like jobs data, etc. We did get some slightly weaker jobs data the other day, which is why we got a bit of a pump in crypto. So we need to watch this data, because nowadays cryptocurrency led by Bitcoin and Ethereum and these big cryptos is very, very sensitive to that economic data, because it all affects the level of interest rates, and the level of interest rates affects the amount of money available in the economy. If interest rates are high, then the actual repayments on debt, the repayments on business loans, etc., are very, very high. And so there's less money available in the economy to invest into risk assets. And that's really the dynamic of why interest rates affect the amount of money that's available for risk assets, and why it does affect. Some people ask why. That's the basic reason why. The S&P 500, again, we said from a long time this was a corrective move down, so we're expecting a move up. So far, this move looks to be in a nice 5 waves. I just wouldn't mind removing a few of these Fibonacci and just have a quick look. Maybe hard to tell, but I think that anyway, we can fairly clearly see there's some kind of 5-wave move to the upside, or some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 5 clear waves to the upside. That is what you would expect after a corrective move down. So 3 waves down, 3 waves is always corrective. It's always against the trend, really. And then 5 waves up is with the trend. The trend is very clearly to the upside still. And so we expected long time ago, even way back here, we were expecting this to be some sort of overhead resistance. We may break through it, but it certainly was a target for price to go to. And we're virtually there now, aren't we? 5.355, very, very close. In fact, we peaked at 5.363, and I had the target above at 5.379. So we're there or thereabouts. We may get a bit higher. I think that will create some kind of resistance. So a good risk reward level to potentially, if we break above and retest, then certainly we'll be going higher. But it's a good area to start to look at taking trades potentially with really good risk reward metrics. We just look very briefly at Dogecoin. Again, we're expecting some downside. This does look clearly from the bottom here, looks somehow corrective. There's a lot of overlap. Even this wave down here overlapped this wave up here. So we're seeing overlap, so it looks corrective, so potentially a bit of downside. And this eBay does not rely on these particular indicators. It's just interesting that eBay gave it a sell yesterday, and the actual indicators that I look at are also potentially saying it's a potential sell there. And even if we look at, I'm just trying to look where there's any divergences here. Yeah, no particular divergence, so there's no particular bias there from divergence point of view. Toncoin, as we said, has been an amazing performer, and we can see that. Again, gone pretty much according to plan. I think we're probably, again, we may have reached a tipping point. We've got potentially a good from this A wave down. We have 3 waves down, 3 waves up. We could get a movement down. So like the rest of crypto, there is a lot of correlation between them. We're saying Bitcoin is at or near all-time high. We may see some downside. I think there's a reasonable chance of the same for Toncoin. So even though we had it upgraded with eBay, and you can see the big pump that we had since those upgrades, I think it's time to at least protect your profits, and with some potential downside to come. And this is a very bearish candle. It is a complete candle now, but basically this candle is a very bearish hammer kind of candlestick, which tells us potentially of a reversal to the downside. So I'm cautious crypto right now. I'm being very, very careful, protecting positions, taking profits, not entering new long positions right now. It may be the price goes up, maybe I'm wrong, but at least I'm not going to lose money if I've protected or taken profits. So that would be the general advice that I give. So again, I think I'm up with time, but yeah, overall, I think it's a good advice to just be cautious at the moment.
Protect the profits. Protect the profits, or protect your liquidity, depending on where you are in your trade. It's good advice.
Yeah, nobody ever went bust by taking a profit.
That's right.
So
awesome.
And the thing is, it's all about survival. Live again to fight another day. So if you're taking some profits, you can always look for greater profits the next day. And there's always another opportunity. Crypto, one of the reasons I love crypto so much is the volatility. It just means there's always opportunity. Even if you miss an opportunity, don't worry about it. Don't let that emotion get the better of you and make you jump into something. Just keep calm, keep cool, look for the next opportunity and make your money again.
That's true. There is so much opportunity in crypto. I mean, just so much. There's almost always, even on a down day, some crypto that's pumping 50% or 100%. Never mind 10 or 5 or 10%. You know what I mean? There's a lot of opportunity.
I mean, you got 20,000 cryptos. I mean, we only rate about 700 or so at eBay, but you know, even 700 is a lot to choose from. And you use the eBay ratings, and you can get a good indication of whether, you know, you're looking at buy or sell, or should it be in your portfolio. So,
yep, awesome.
Opportunity is the name of the game.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. I'll be in New York this evening. It's going to be an early show tomorrow, but I'll be there. I'll see you then.
Great. Look forward to it. Thanks for having me again. Thank you, everybody, and bye for now.
Cheers. Yeah, so I'll be in New York this evening. We have our inaugural Bitcoin Palooza. It's not, I have to say, you know, it's not one of our galas. All right. This is not one of our signature events or anything like that. We're having it at Pub Key, which is known as kind of the first ever Bitcoin dive bar there in New York City. We have had it's a decent amount of interest, though. A lot of OGs I see signing up and coming. So I was a little back and forth over whether I'm going to go or not, but I guess I'm going. You guys have pushed me into it. Now I'll be there. It's going to be pretty awesome. We're going to have I think anyway, we have, it's going to be Public Key starting at 6:00. There's a Nostr meetup there, as well as some comedy. And as well as we have the Coinheads are singing. I'll be on stage a bit myself. I've been known to be a bit entertaining here and there, so that'll be a lot of fun. I love the stage, obviously. Do this every morning. So that's going to be at Public Key tonight. You should go ahead and get your tickets. I should put this up. Let me just change this here. You should sign up. I'll scroll this across the bottom. Bitcoin Palooza. The inaugural Bitcoin Palooza. Today. at PubKey, at PubKey, Public Key Bar NYC. Sign up Luma / Bitcoin Palooza. Yes. So sign up at Bitcoin Palooza. I'll put this on the bottom here. There we go. Inaugural Bitcoin Palooza today at Public Key Bar NYC. Sign up at Luma / Bitcoin Palooza. That's LU.MA / Bitcoin Palooza. It's the first ever Bitcoin Palooza. Big, good setup too. We announced that we're having our Washington Elite Gala during the UN General Assembly in September. We're doing quite a few other things as well. Big move in New York coming up this September for impact money for the Smart Money Culture TV network and the rest. So sign up. I'm gonna go to an interview, very interesting interview that I did there in Consensus at Consensus 2024 with Anna Plotnikova. She's the CEO and co-founder of the Fidian Group. And we are back here at Consensus 2024, having a great time. Great group of people. I mean, I've always said that about this space. The people here are so smart. They're like, it's fun. There's all this new emerging technology. I have with me here Anna Plotnikova, and she's with the Fidian Group. She's the CEO and founder of the Fidian Group. So tell me a little bit about what the Fidian Group is and what brought you here to Consensus.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I couldn't agree more. The conversations you have with people that you just pass by is inspiring, to be honest. Well, Fidian Group, our mission is very simple. We're streamlining the digital transformation of financial institutions, banks, and small to medium enterprises, and we're bringing them closer to digital currencies. And we do it through multiple ways. It's either our infrastructure solutions or different methods of payments.
Okay. So, all right. So that's, we have right here, and I used to say this about Consensus quite a bit. You guys have heard me say it on the show a number of times. I couldn't believe how many suits were at the old Consensus. I would go to the old Consensus there in New York City, and like, what am I doing here? So many suits. Now it's like a lot of suits, but it's Austin, so it's a little different. But, enabling those institutions and that's big money into the space, let's face it, it's changed a lot of our lives.
Absolutely.
So take it out of a box for our users, for our viewers a little bit. What exactly is Fidian Group doing to achieve that?
Absolutely. Well, there are a few interesting aspects on what we say, let's bring institutions to crypto.
Right.
Because what do we want? Do we want liquidity? Do we want to enable them trading crypto? Or do we want to provide them different blockchain solutions for regulated financial instruments to be traded? Right. So we at Fidian, first of all, we provide them with a full suite of services when it comes to compliance. I know compliance might sound very boring, but without compliance and regulation, institutions won't even touch that thing. This is why all of us were so excited about ETFs, and this is we, on other side of the pond in Europe, celebrated MiCA regulation. Because now we can go to actual financial institutions and say, well, you can have crypto on your balance sheet, use our solution to track it, to do better AML solutions for your B2B or B2B2C customers. So this is what we do. The space, institutional adoption of crypto, especially in Europe with MiCA, it is developing quickly, but in my opinion, not even quick enough. So companies like ourselves, we're really pushing. We're pushing the boundary to and advocating for and explaining and educating both them and us on what they need. Because there, it's probably better than myself. There is so much arrogance in our space. So when we come to
it's nothing compared to what it used to be. I'm telling you, back in the day, all those Bitcoin OGers, none of us liked each other. Everybody was like, I don't know.
So
anyway,
we have to speak the same language as our clients. And if our clients are institutions, we have to put the suit on and speak exactly the same language.
It's so true. You have to speak the same language as the people you're working with. It's very important. I know when I'm dealing with the clients, if they text me, I text them. If they leave me a voice message, I leave them a voice message.
Exactly.
If it's a phone call, it's a phone call. I'm a big phone call guy personally, or video. I really don't like the messages back and forth, but pretty interesting. So we're here at Consensus. A lot of us have, we've moved mountains to be here, right? You crossed the pond, as I always say. I think you said too. What constitutes a success here? What makes this a successful trip for you?
So first of all, funny enough, I think half of European blockchain teams are here.
Yeah.
So it really reduces traveling within Europe. You can meet all of them in one space, in one place, which is US. Funny, but we're all here. And second of all, US is very important market that every company is trying to target and tap into.
Oh, yeah.
It is a very difficult market, but fortunately, our solutions, they do not require trading, for retail investors, none of that. We are very boring, but in a very good sense, boring infrastructure and compliance solution provider for these companies. And for us, it's very important to see and feel the pulse. What is happening here comparing to our banking clients in Nordics? And some things do overlap. Some things, they're just totally different waves.
Right.
Let's say if Nordic banks are already embracing or starting to embrace MiCA, local banks, they're not so eager, or they're eager to do very structured and financial products on the blockchain. The practical differences on what interests clients is just fascinating.
Yeah.
So for us, success is to reconnect and meet and just feel what is happening.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you, it's good to hear that you see a lot of Europeans here, because I know, leading up to it, and historically, I have even left the country a lot in order to work overseas, because there really just wasn't a good enough framework where I felt safe doing business over here.
Yeah.
I mean, people go to jail, and it's no joke.
100%.
Yeah.
And well, luckily here in the US, you do have a Fit 21 bill.
I just passed the House. Everyone's like this. I don't know if it's going to pass the Senate or not, though.
You know what? I don't have a crystal ball to predict what is going to happen in American
But it's
Senate.
a step in the right direction.
Exactly that. Yeah. Because the bill itself, it's not perfect.
Right.
But it's better to have some kind of framework than none.
Yes.
Because then the companies and passionate individuals, they can lobby in a positive sense. In the positive meaning of the word, what needs to be changed, what paragraphs should be added.
Yeah.
We did exactly the same in the European Union before MiCA and before all local regulations came into place. So it's better to have something than nothing.
It's better to have something than nothing. Well, I mean, or if you're not going to have anything, just stop putting people in jail. But if you're going to put people in jail, then give us something, right?
Exactly.
That's really the nuts and bolts of it. That's really cool. After Consensus,
we're heading back to Europe, working on a licensing. MiCA new regimes kicking into place, so we're ready to submit an application to the regulators and just busy onboarding clients.
Well, that's great. I do think that more and more clarity coming out of Washington. All right, folks. Well, there you go. It seems like I started to have a little bit of a problem there with my audio, and I remember that now at the moment. But it was a great interview so far. Anyway, the rest of it was a bit of just pleasantries that we finished up with. Anna, thanks so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun doing that interview. So that's we'll have some more of those, and I think sometimes that stuff happens, right? Sometimes that stuff happens. I think my battery or something had gotten low at that point. So some very important things there that she talked about, and that was, what they are doing is really helping the institutions in order to manage these processes. And we have a number of those. They say during the gold rush that there was, more millionaires made from selling the shovels and stuff like that than actually digging for the gold. And so these host of services that come in and do things are very important. Even look at our show, for instance. Now, of course, we don't just cover crypto. We're finance and we do world news and everything else, but we are part and parcel. We're good, that's kind of what we do, right? So we take events like we did our Washington Elite Gala there at Consensus. It was a lot of fun, and we connected with a lot of people that we are coming back with now and talking to. Bitcoin Palooza as well coming up. The UN General Assembly Week is going to be big. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that we're able to tap into and work with. Pretty excited as well about tonight at the Bitcoin Palooza that will be at the Public Bar NYC. Make sure that you sign up for that. That is going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be a good time to see people. Like I said, I notice that more and more people are signing up for that. People I haven't seen in years too. So that's a lot of fun. Now we have coming up the People's Convention. The People's Convention, okay? And this is going to be June 14 through 16. The People's Convention. Let's see. This is put on by Turning Point. Turning Point is led by Charlie Kirk right here. He's a pretty well-known guy in the space. President Trump will be speaking at this conference. You can just Google People's Conference or go to, let me see here. I think I have a banner queued up here. Here we go. Trump in Detroit. I'll take down the public key. We're live, guys. We're live. There you go. Use Impact Money for a 25% discount. That was something we were able to negotiate for our viewers. 25% discount. Make sure to use Impact Money. I'd love to see you guys in Detroit. It's going to be a lot of fun. Vivek's going to be there. Ben Carson, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump Jr. We have Tulsi Gabbard, Kristi Noem, Candace Owens. These are speakers. I mean, everybody's going to be there. Hopefully, I'll be able to bring some really interesting interviews. Would love to interview, of course, some of these people. Roger Stone would be absolutely amazing. Of course, we have Laura Trump, Senator Rick. I mean, let's face it, most people would absolutely. Jack Proziak, but Roger Stone, of course, such a historic figure. Worked back in the Nixon. I think, campaign, at least. I'm not sure, administration, back when all that went on. It would be very interesting to me. The thing about Roger Stone in that time is that, I've talked about it on the show before. Everybody says Nixon took the U.S. off of the gold standard, but I actually have a theory that we were running out of gold anyway, and Americans weren't able to own gold anyway. That's what nobody talks about. It was illegal for Americans to own gold. And between like 1933 or 34, when they confiscated everybody's gold and gave it to the central bank, the Federal Reserve, that nobody talks about, then they made it illegal. And they said the US dollars were tied to gold, but the only people that were able to get gold at such a low price, $35 per ounce, were foreign entities. And so after they had cashed in so much of their U.S. dollars at this ridiculously low price, you look at the price now, $2,500, they were getting $35 per ounce stuck there. Nixon is the one who stopped that from happening. It was already illegal for you and me to own gold and for our families to own gold. All he did was stop the wholesale of our gold to other countries. So it'd be really interesting to talk to him about it. I haven't really heard anybody else talk about this fact that I brought up on the show, a while ago. So anyway, Roger Stone, of course, Benny is Benny Johnson, one of the well-known guys. Bishop Aubrey. We have Kim Garfoyle, Lee Zeldin, Congressman Matt Gaetz, Brandon Tatum, Eli Crane, Eric Burleson. We have Kerry Lake, Tom Klingenson, Scott Pressler, and you can get this at action.tp. Just Google it, the People's Convention. Scott Pressler, crowd favorite, of course. He's probably registered more people than anybody. Nigel Farage, who I understand is running again for something. Mike Lindell, the great Mike Lindell. James Lindsay, Warren Davidson, Michael Cloud, Byron Donalds, who is on the short list, I think officially on the short list for VP, and Rebecca Weber. So there's going to be a lot of people at this conference. The People's Convention, great name too, right? And put on by Charlie Kirk. Charlie, and we've been following each other on Twitter for a long time now, 2016 or 2015 or before, back when campaigning for campaigning for Trump. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Make sure that you if you're able to come to Detroit, come to Detroit, June 14 through 16. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I mean, Trump is speaking. Trump in Detroit at the People's Convention, Turning Points People's Convention. Use discount code Impact Money. Get yourself 25% discount, and we'll be there. Look forward to seeing you guys. Should be absolutely a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be good to see everybody. I know a lot of times I'm at crypto events, and maybe you don't see me, right? But I'm around. But there, I'll be there, and we'll be out and supporting and reporting on it. That's it for today. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.